So, episode 3 of House of the Dragon season 2 just came out, and this episode wasn't as, say, action packed as the last episode, but definitely a lot of important things happened. Hi, my name is Tia, your content manager from Geek Vibes Nation, and this is going to be a slight spoiler type of situation here. It's not really a review of episode 3, but obviously I'll be talking a little bit in the review context of it. But the whole point of this video, right, and House of the Dragon, the TV show at the very least, as a whole, is that the Dance of the Dragons almost essentially starts by mistake. Now, we obviously know that people like Otto Hightower and other members of the council were planning to have Alicent's son Aegon take the crown once Viserys died, long before Viserys actually died. But according to really Alicent, and why she kind of jumped on the bandwagon was because she misinterpreted Viserys's dying words. And it's something of a meme for the last 2 years that it's like the Targaryens need to stop naming all of their kids Aegon. Maybe this wouldn't have happened because Alicent thinks Viserys is talking about their degenerate son Aegon, when in reality he was talking about Aegon the Conqueror. And it was funny because I was at work today and someone pointed out, like, did they also forget that Viserys has a grandson, aka Rhaenyra's son Aegon? What's to say that he wasn't talking about that Aegon, right? So it was a bit of a meme, and it was interesting at the end of not season, at the end of episode 2 to have Rhaenyra and Alicent actually hash that out, and it become abundantly clear that she misinterpreted Viserys's words. And it could a little bit seem like fan service to put that scene in. Was it actually necessary? Would the story may have worked a little better with that kind of ambiguity or that misinterpretation still looming in the air? But another person pointed out that this is really important because it's showing that Rhaenyra essentially gave Alicent every out that she could. And at this point, and Alicent and Rhaenys have both kind of said it's too late at this point. Things have already happened. People are getting ready for war, and the brakes really couldn't be, hit. Like, you couldn't pump the brakes and them actually mattered now at this point, right? They don't. Things are going to happen, and now it's time to get this war into full swing. And I think that's what we're going to see in episode 4. Episode 3 set up a lot. I really enjoyed them giving the eggs to Rhaena, because not only does this set up for Daenerys getting the 3 eggs in Game of Thrones, but it's kind of like we're really prepared. Rhaenyra is essentially ensuring the future of her house and her lineage with Rhaena. She literally says, if everything comes to ruin here, you're like our hope, right? So you got that. Bela's being a badass, essentially. Team Black is getting so much in place, and Daemon is going to Harrenhal to claim that, which, let's talk for a second. That Simon Strong scene was so hilarious, and that's kind of what I love about the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon show. Yes, a lot of it is serious, but there's some comical moments, and that was certainly a comical moment where Simon Strong was like, I hate Laris. I'm trying to eat. Harrenhal is yours. And can we please comment on the fact that why has no one tried to like redo Harrenhal? It's been a long time since Aegon the Conqueror messed up Harrenhal, and that place is still shit by the time of Game of Thrones. But that's neither here nor there. I thought that whole entire sequence with Daemon in Harrenhal, everything about it was great, from the comedic aspects to also Alice Strong telling him that he was going to die in Harrenhal, as well as Daemon's hallucination of a younger Rhaenyra, essentially telling him like, you mess a lot of shit up. But so that was great, right? This episode sets up a lot that if you're a book reader and you know kind of what's going to happen, a lot is set up, from Aegon being an absolute ass to everyone around him. As I said, to the Daemon Targaryen scenes, to Rhaena. So I'm not going to spoil anything really of what happens in the books, you can certainly look that up. And there are plenty of channels who dive deeper into the differences as well as what this whole thing is setting up. I mean, obviously, I think we should know a little bit of what has happened since not only is this a prequel show, but Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones kind of already says what happened to Rhaenyra, if you remember that episode where he's showing Marjorie around the Red Keep. But anyway, or around King's Landing, wherever he was showing her. Dragon Pit? Anyway. So, I mean, my whole thing is, could this all have been avoided if everyone stops naming their kids Aegon, right? The Targaryens love either repeating names or giving people names that sound very similar. Like you have Rhaenyra, Rhaenys, you have Daemon, Daron, Aema, Aegon, Aemond, Viserys, right? There's a few Daenerys's. There's a lot, right? You can look up, but like the Aegons that are Alicent's Aegon, which is Aegon the second, and then Rhaenyra's Aegon, which is Aegon the third. Those aren't even the last Aegons, right? You have Aegon the fourth, and then I mean, according to, and then whatchamacallit it, Rhaegar and Elia Martell, they have a baby Aegon. And then in the show Game of Thrones, apparently Jon Snow's real name is Aegon, right? And if you know me, I absolutely hate the fact that they made Jon Snow a Targaryen in the show. I'm kind of really hoping in the books that's not the case, but it may very well be. But either way, there's 1,000 Aegons, right? And you're going to take the words of a dying man like Viserys, who was just so crippled at that point and so um just withering away, and you're going to sit there and think that he was in his right mind speaking. It, obviously he was confused when Alicent essentially shoved milk of the poppy down his throat, and he was going back to a time where he was talking to Rhaenyra just before, where he was talking about the Song of an Ice and Fire. Aegon the Conqueror, the prince that was promised, right? So, and it's so interesting, right? Because in that scene between the two, right, between Alicent and Rhaenyra, the interesting thing is, for a split second, you saw on Rhaenyra's face, and this is just how good of an actor Emma Darcy is, that Rhaenyra almost thought like, oh, my father did change his mind. He did want Aegon. Am I then all of this is just wrong? Then I shouldn't, because then I'm the usurper, essentially. And the relief and realization when Alicent talks about the prince who is promised, and it's like, no, Viserys was talking about Aegon the Conqueror, and Alicent's face was hilarious because, like, oh shit. And I mean, of course, Alicent's not going to know what's going on. Like, I know that technically Alicent's kids are Targaryen through the father. And let's talk, like, let's push real life stuff aside. In this world, it's like Rhaenyra and Daemon, like to me, those are like almost true Targaryens who were immersed in the Targaryen culture, know about shit and everything, right? I mean, Daemon doesn't know about the Song of Ice and Fire, but like they know their history at the very least. Alicent is a Hightower. She doesn't even want to practice the religion that the Targaryens practice, which is fine. But the point is, like, it seems as if while the children are Targaryens, Alicent never really bothered to immerse herself too much into Targaryen knowledge. So it's like she doesn't even know. And you could say I'm wrong, that I'm off the cuff, right? And that's perfectly fine. But to me, I always kind of saw it that way, that while her children are Targaryens, they are more so immersed in like the faith of the Seven, which is a very much a Westerosi faith, as opposed to what the Targaryens believe in, coming in from old Valyria. From my understanding, Targaryens only kept things up that are like the faith of the Seven, to not only be respectful of the land that they essentially conquered, and that be, but also to kind of the sparrows and everything from Game of Thrones, they pretty much just wanted to appease them, and that's why they keep them up. But the fact that like her children are in green, a high tower color, like they're not even wearing the colors of their house. Their sigil, while being a dragon, is green and gold. The colors of the high towers. So I always thought it was just like really interesting because in her side of the Targaryens, there looked like there was no effort to really merge the cultures. It was just all high tower. Whereas opposed to on Rhaenyra's side, even with like her husband Laenor being a Velaryon, like there's a flag that kind of merges the Targaryens, the Velaryon, like everything together. So it's like, I don't know, it's just strange. And I'm going on a tangent now. I don't have a script or anything. I was literally just sitting here going like, wow, everything would have really gone better if they stopped naming all of their kids the same thing. And that's like the thing about the Targaryens, right? They find a lot of, obviously, how am I trying to say this? They find a lot of honor in naming their children after Aegon the Conqueror. It's a way to keep the memory alive, and all that is tradition. But my God, guys, come up with some different names. That's all I'm saying, right? If correct me if I'm wrong, there's not even like that many Daenerys's. So thank God, like by the time Daenerys comes, it's we don't have like a million of them. But I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, there's also a shit ton of Viserys, right? Viserys in House of the Dragon and Viserys in Game of Thrones aren't the only Viseryses out there. As you know, Rhaenyra's other son with Daemon is a Viserys. So it's, I don't know. Stop naming your kids the same thing, guys. This is how the Dance of the Dragons happen, and a shit ton of deaths are going to happen, and all this bloodbath and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, Kristen Cole sucks. That's just random, but I have to throw it out there. Anyway, I have done some written reviews for House of the Dragon on Game of Thrones on geek5nation.com. Make sure you check that out. I will link them down below. Let me know what you are thinking of the show so far. Are you looking forward to the fourth episode? How do you feel about the differences between the books and the show? Because I'd be really interested in the 2 years in between the first and second season. I have read the book of Fire and Blood, but I haven't read all of the Game of Thrones books, right? But Fire and Blood was really good. I'm still waiting for that second part, George R. R. Martin. God. Anyway, please let me know what you think. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, this is your content manager, Tia. Bye.